You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better, something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Well, hello there. I'm Sunny, and I'm so glad that you've joined me today. This episode is my very first one, Shine Your Light. This podcast will contain adult language, obviously. I wanted to go ahead and get that out up front. I find working in some swear words to be cathartic just in my daily language. That is who I am. So I'm glad to have you here, and I'm glad to have you understanding and releasing any judgments whatsoever about what I might say here, because everything that I'm here to say is for you. Sunny is my nickname, and it comes from sunshine and from many a coworker over the years commenting on my stellar RBF. That is resting bitch face for those of you that don't have all the acronyms down. I'm one of the cool kids, right? Ha ha. I owned that term before it became mainstream. I am not kidding. I had the most amazing RBF. And so a lot of times my coworkers would simply greet me with, "Hey, sunshine," as complete and utter sarcasm, right? Because that's about the way my face looks. And it still kind of does, right? When I'm in a thoughtful place and I'm really concentrating, oh my gosh, that RBF is so good. So I wanted to go ahead and own that. At this point in my life, I think I can do it. So I'm Sunny, and I am here for you to help you find some parts of yourself that are kind of dimmed and tucked away, and you may not even know how much power that you really, really have. Let's start with me relaying a simple, yet what I find to be radical approach to life that's going to underpin everything that I share going forward. Because I love stories, allow me to just weave one in so this serves as a dual purpose. You get to know a little more about me, and my example should provide some clarity of how this shit works. I was born in a shack in the hills of eastern Kentucky. Oh, relax. I'm not going to share my entire life story, not in this episode, certainly, and definitely not in the entire podcast. I think this is a good place to start, however. I think it's a great freaking story to share. Let's just start with how I was born and where I was born. It's a good one. It's going to make sense to you in just a minute. I was born in a shack in the hills of eastern Kentucky. And for many years, I thought nothing of this. I grew up in rural Eastern Kentucky until I was a teenager, until around my sophomore year of high school. That's where I lived and grew up. And that was my part of the world. And that's what I knew. And it just never came up in conversation. It was never a thing. And then for my 18th birthday, my father wrote a story in the newspaper that he was working for at the time. He actually had a column in the newspaper. Now, for those of you that don't remember what newspapers were, that's how we got information back in the days before the internet. Oh my gosh. Yes, he had a column in a paper that in Pennsylvania. And so he used his column, he leveraged his column to dedicate a story to me. And it happened to be the story of my birth. Now, I had already known that I was born at home. I didn't, again, think anything of it, but I thought the story was kind of cool, right? I mean, it was a little bit vulnerable on his part, kind of sharing his perspective of it, as a very young person in his early 20s, and his fears all of the sudden at thinking maybe, hey, we're doing this alone. Why did we decide to do this, right? It was a really cool story. And so I took it to school with me, and I thought I would share it and with my class. That was all good until one girl just gasped just like this, and she said, "You weren't born in a hospital?" I mean, this utter disbelief. I will never ever forget the look on her face. She was absolutely stunned. It's like the person that was standing before her was some sort of alien from another planet, and she was a bit mortified, actually. I mean, that's the look, that's the impression that I got from it. I was like, whoa, never had I thought anything of it until I saw her reaction. And suddenly I thought, wait a minute, I'm not normal. There's something wrong with me. Normal people are born in hospitals. And I felt this overwhelming shame just wash over me. I felt this sensation deep in my stomach. It was very heavy, ominous, and dark. I wanted to crawl under a rock and stay there. I wanted to rewind that morning and change the circumstances of me even bringing that article to share. Has any one of you been there with me before? You want to do over? Let's do this over. Let's back this up. Let's pretend this never happened. Can I take it back? No, you can't. And this is also, may I remind you again, in the days before the internet. And so this person is in front of me, just absolutely baffled, and the reaction and things like that. Now, I'm not saying we don't have interactions in person anymore. We most certainly do. We have plenty of interactions in person. But at that time, I really just didn't know what to do with that. And I allowed it in that moment to make it mean something about me, that I wasn't good enough. I was different. I was not worthy. Oh, that was a tough one to deal with at such a tender age, right? Certainly it wasn't the first time I felt shame, but that one was really, really deep. And I remember that so much so that I never admitted that to anyone again until now. And now I'm just going to tell the whole world about it, right? I just think it's a great example because I've experienced tremendous growth, honestly, in the past few years beyond what I could have imagined. Okay. It didn't happen for many years and even decades after that moment in time, after that shame wash, that shame bath that I took in the classroom of my senior year of high school with this girl that, I'll be honest with you, really didn't mean much to me because I can't even remember her name now. It's not that she played a very pivotal role in my life whatsoever, other than that, right? Other than that particular moment. And so I didn't know it that day, and I didn't know it for many, many years later, but my shame did not come from that girl's reaction to how I came to resist in this world. It didn't come from that gasp and her tone of voice or that look of utter disbelief on her face. It didn't even come from the fact that she did this in front of my entire class. I mean, this was a public display, right? I mean, those are the most shameful of all. All of those things, that feeling, that awful feeling that I had, that sensation, that emotion in that moment, actually came from my thoughts about her reaction. Remember, when she said that, and when I saw the look on her face, my thoughts went straight to, wait a minute, I'm not normal. I wasn't born in a hospital. What does she think of me? Right? And that's what I want you to come away with from this episode. If you only come away with one thing, this is the secret to removing all of the obstacles from your life. Every emotion that you feel is created by your thoughts. Let me say that again. Every emotion that you feel is created by your thoughts. You create your own version of reality with your thoughts and your feelings, your own stories, what you make those stories mean about you. Every action that you take is driven by an emotion. Hear me on this. Every emotion that you feel is created by your thoughts, yours and yours alone. In future episodes, I'm going to dig into what all of this means and how it shapes your life. But for now, stay with me here in this truth. Your thoughts create your feelings. The other thing I want you to know about me is that this story is simply the first of many shameful moments for me, right? So even as I said earlier, it's not about that this is the first time that I had ever experienced shame. I've experienced it many times after that, right? May have even had some shame yesterday for breakfast. I can't recall just at the moment, but a great chunk of my life I didn't know what to do with it, and it is the emotion, right? How to deal with it. And so for me, I tried to drown it out with alcohol. And happy emotions I would try to enhance through drinking. And that works great until it doesn't, until you take it a little too far. You know what I'm talking about if you've been there. Nervous, take the edge off. Need a little push to be more outgoing at an event? Try some liquid courage. Before you know it, it becomes such a part of your life that you wonder who you are without it. And if at this point you're nodding with understanding, then I invite you to continue listening because I have many, many stories to share and, more importantly, actionable steps to break free of everything that is holding you back. I'm not going to discuss alcohol any further in this episode. I just need you to know about my journey at this point is that I've taken a lot of detours to get here. And you might identify with some elements of my journey along the way. And ultimately, I just want you to bring it back to you and to your own life. How are you showing up for it? Maybe it's not even alcohol that you're dimming your light with. It doesn't have to be. I'll certainly talk more about numbing emotions through drinking, but I think that you'll find a way to be able to relate in other areas. For example, food. For many of us, it's food or binge watching. We have all of this streaming media at our disposal, and we can just check out on an entire series if we want, to just escape. And what are we escaping? Through gaming, through porn, even healthy activities like exercise can be used to avoid negative emotion. Many times we don't even realize that we're using these activities to escape our minds. So, the ways in which we numb ourselves to escape those negative emotions are endless. They really are. And I'm here for all of them, all the ways. Okay? Because it doesn't matter what it is that you're using to escape those emotions, it's all the same underneath the surface. All right, where am I now with this? Let's talk about that. I have since replaced my own judgments with compassion and curiosity, and that is a beautiful thing. I'm here to show you how to do the same. For example, I have come full circle with the story of my birth. My very impressionable 18-year-old self was looking for someone to blame. And so immediately I turned on my parents, right? In my mind, they should have done better. What were they thinking? Why did they do this to me? Oh, why me? Now I have to live with their choices. Total victim mentality, right? I was a victim of my parents' decisions. Who hasn't done that, right? Judgment, absolute judgment. But I created those from my thoughts. And I think, now I think, how freaking amazing is it that a couple of kids, just a couple of years beyond 18 themselves, they managed to pull off a live birth in the hills. In the literal wild, right? Just the two of them. And by the way, for centuries, this has been the case. Millions of women have given birth naturally. And I mean naturally. And it's not an issue. It's our civilization, our time, and our culture that we create an issue around this in our brains, right? We are happy to celebrate a woman who gives birth in the front seat of her car on the way to the hospital. It's amazing. But why would any parents in their right mind choose to do it on their own? That is unfathomable and truly courageous. Are you starting to see how this works? I'm giving you actual thoughts I've had about the same event, how I came to be here. And can we pause for just a moment and consider what a badass my mother is for choosing to have a home birth? I mean, completely awesome. So when I think of my parents in the way that they should have done better, what were they thinking? I'm coming from a place of judgment and I feel pissed off that I can't change it. My feeling is anger, frustration, resentment, those kind of feelings toward my parents for a decision that they made a long time ago, for creating the circumstance of my birth that I thought at the time was my source of shame. I thought that girl's reaction meant something about me when it really meant something about her. Brene Brown says that empathy is the enemy of shame. Let's try that on and see how it feels. When I think how freaking amazing that they did this on their own, I'm curious and compassionate. I am acknowledging the decisions they made are ultimately neutral in my own life. And I feel proud. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of me. I'm proud to be here sharing my stories with you. I'm proud to be shining my light, and that's what being Sunny means to me now. So stick with me and I'll show you how to shine yours. Now, I want to be clear that changing your thoughts is a process. This is a journey. It is not a snap of the fingers and, oh, okay, everything's better now. It took me years to arrive at a completely different emotion around this single circumstance. And I didn't even know yet the tools that I'm going to share with you here. It just took me some time to process that and really think about what the experience that I was creating around this is. I mean, this can go really, really deep in a lot of different places. And while it may seem a simple example in some ways, I can tell you when you're living it, and that reality that you create around things that happen, those thoughts that you create, you are defining your own experience. So I'm telling you, this is very powerful stuff, just this simple part alone. And there's so much more that I can build on after this, okay? Also, I want to make it very clear to you that I am not a just think happy thoughts person. I am not even close. Through future podcasts, I will help you learn how to be with all of your emotions, even the really tough ones like shame. And finally, I want to acknowledge that I'm launching this podcast during a time when COVID-19 is sweeping through the US and many of us are facing unprecedented times. I will definitely be directly addressing the nuances of isolation and extra layers of anxiety and fear. Just know that the concepts I'm sharing here are applicable to absolutely any time. Your past, your present, and your future, all created by your thoughts, regardless of what is happening around you. And I would like to close this episode with a Rumi quote because I think it is so, so very applicable to lighting up and where it really comes from. So really listen to this because it touches me deeply every time I see it, every time I hear it. And I'm actually speaking it out loud for the first time for you all. Okay, here we go. If the beautiful one is not inside you, then what is that light hidden under your cloak? Oh my gosh. So freaking beautiful, right? If the beautiful one is not inside you, then what is that light hidden under your cloak? Okay, put down your shield, stop hiding. I'll say it one more time. I'm proud to be shining my light. That's what being sunny means to me now. If you like this episode, please subscribe to this podcast so you can hear more. I'd be honored if you leave me a review on iTunes. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Sunny the Life Coach and message me from there. If you'd like to talk, you can also check out my website, sunnythelifecoach.com. I look forward to interacting with all of you in the future. Shine on.